Hi guys, it's day 2 and I'm here again to share what I learned today. So today was pretty interesting because first I learned about value, and this was from an audio message I heard from Joshua Selman, and he was saying that reward responds to value, and that the caliber of people who seek for your attention could be an indicator of the kind of value you carry or how valuable you are to those people especially. So let's take an example. When poorer people are seeking for a person's attention, it means that that person is valuable to those poor people. But a richer person might not find this person as attractive or think is worth the effort of going after, right? And so same thing, when kings are looking for a particular person, it shows how much value that person has to those kings. So it's just like your value attracts your kind, or the kind of people who value your value. Does that make sense? Yes, but on further thought about this, I felt like it's not just the fact that somebody is valuable that attracts people to them. The value has to actually be recognized, because we think of raw gold. You know, raw gold in its form is seemingly worthless to the untrained eye. So a person can see raw gold and not have an idea that this is actually very valuable when it is refined. So it got me thinking, how do you make your value recognizable? Because to be honest, we are all valuable one way or the other. Of course, we have varying degrees of value, but the point now is, how do we communicate that value so that other people can recognize it? I mean, I have 2 thoughts, and one of them is by results. So the more results I have, the more I can communicate my value easily to anybody. So like, once I just say that this is what I've done, this is what I accomplished, you know, it is easier to communicate my value to anybody without having to say too much stories, right? Another thing I thought was knowledge. So like, I'm able to communicate my value when I'm able to pass knowledge across to my listener or my audience. The thing with this is that it's more, it takes longer. Like, they have to listen to me first to realize that, oh, this person actually knows his onions or has such value, right? And it's a very subjective view, because some people actually just know, but they don't know how to do. So in the aspect of knowledge, they are valuable, but with regard to practical results, they may not have produced as much value. So I'll say results is like the very best way to communicate value to anybody, anytime, right? But if you have thoughts, you can drop them in the comments below. I'll be happy to read. So that was one very important thing I learned this morning. Another thing I also found very insightful was the fact that you know, being valuable really means that it is hard to replace you. Or like, if I am valuable, it's difficult to replace me. Now, of course, the idea is that nobody is indispensable, but the level of value a person carries, how valuable a person is, can be seen by how hard it is to replace that person, you know, in maybe an organization, a system, whatever. I thought that was really amazing. Another thing I learned today was the idea of seed. So a seed contains in it everything it needs, of course in the right environment, to grow and become a mighty tree that produces other fruits and other seeds, right? And I thought of it like, many times when we hear this analogy, we think that each of us has some specific or unique talent that makes us who we are. The good thing is that might be true, but even if that is disputable, the idea is that each of us has a mind, and I think of the mind as a seed. So in the mind, you have every capability to make your life, really, right? It depends on what you feed your mind with, right? So which is a little bit interesting, because now you feed your mind, which is supposed to be the seed. But the idea is that, like, the seed has everything in it needs to grow. All it needs is sunlight, it needs water, and a good soil, an environment to grow, right? Same thing I feel like the mind is, right? All it needs is good information, or, well, I'll just say information in general, because if you put good information in the mind, you can produce good results. If you put bad information in the mind is that skilled to be able to produce the same level of bad results, right? But the idea is, like, I think the mind is actually a seed, and everybody has it. So it depends on how we utilize that seed, the environment we keep that seed in, and really the information we feed that seed, and the amazing thing it could produce. So I'm still reading, or I just finished reading actually today, Mr. Olaoye's amazing book, which was Predict Your Success. And he offered some tips on how to really develop the mind and, you know, make it more fruitful. One was that you eliminate negative thoughts, which makes sense. Like, if you think of the analogy of like a garden or something, you want to take out the weeds, right? And you want to make sure that the seed has ample space to grow. So in reality, the weeds compete with the seed. So I'll say that in this same line of thought, the mind as the seed, which people also call the garden anyway, but I like to look at it as a seed. The mind as the seed, right, will compete with negative thoughts. So when you keep negative thoughts and you keep putting in your mind, the mind is unable to flourish the way it should flourish. So eliminate negative thoughts. And how do you eliminate negative thoughts? I learned that you fight a thought with another thought, but the exact opposite. You don't just say, I don't want to think bad thoughts, I don't want to think bad thoughts. If you don't want to think bad thoughts, then start thinking good thoughts. So the good thoughts will take the place of the bad thoughts. That was really interesting to me. So yeah, that's one way to cultivate the mind. Another very important thing is to guard the mind, actually. So apart from eliminating the negative thoughts that are already in the mind and the negative things that happen that make the mind think in a certain way, we also need to guard the mind. The Holy Book, the Bible, says that guard your mind with all, guard your heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. In this case, it means that be very conscious the kind of information you're feeding your mind, right? So that you won't have to now eliminate, right? Like, this is like we're even just avoiding the inflow of negative thoughts in the first place. So that was good. And the final thing was to really just create time to think. Create time to think. And I think this was really interesting because, you know, to be honest, we plan the clothes we'll wear for the day, we plan the food we'll eat, where we're going to go, things like this. But scarcely do a lot of people plan the time they're going to think. And you just take time and reflect on the happenings in their lives, on the current situations they find themselves in. But I thought this was really good because when you take time to think, you are able to be more intentional about the happenings of your life. You're able, I almost had the H factor there. You're able to, really take a more holistic approach to whatever you're trying to do. So that was really good. And just before I end this video, there were two quotes that really stood out to me today. The first was by Joyce Meyer, and she says, where the mind goes, the man follows. So it's really as you think in your mind, you're going to see in your life, really. And the second one was by Ralph Waldo Emerson, I believe, yeah. And he said that, the only person you're destined to be is the person you decide to be. That was good. That was good because to be honest, we are the captain of our ship and the captain of our fate, right? Master of our fate. I'm mixing it up. But the idea is that we have full responsibility for however our lives turn out. So these were very good things I learned today, and I'm so excited to share as well. So that'll be all for today, and I'll speak to you guys tomorrow.